Hey everybody.
Hey.
So we're fixing to start our big trip. We're headed to see the aliens and some of Amanda's relatives in Roswell, New Mexico. This is my daughter Amanda.
Hello.
We're fixing to head out. We got the bike all packed up and ready to go. So, yeah, fixing to head out and go do the trip.
This trip started with a phone call from my daughter. She wanted to hit the road with her dad, and I wasn't about to say no. We did not have a destination picked out until the day before we left. We decided to head for Roswell, New Mexico via San Angelo, Texas. The first day's ride saw some great Texas countryside. The weather was pleasant and overcast. It was nice and cool. We arrived in Roswell the afternoon of the second day. We got us some food and rest, and the next morning, bright and early, we were at the museum. The UFO museum was fun and interesting, and it had a lot of displays that were pretty nice. There was tons of information about the crash and the history and other sightings as well. It was a great place to take some cool pictures. The ride up and the museum were a great time. But for me, the best part was spending one-on-one time with one of my daughters. We decided the night before that we would head to Carlsbad Caverns. So after we finished up at the museum, we hit the road. It was a little bit chilly, but it soon warmed up. The road into Carlsbad Caverns was long and windy. It was an outstanding ride. The caverns themselves were outstanding. The views were tremendous, and it's really hard to put it on film, especially without a tripod. So I did the best I could. At least my camera was up to the task. So we walked on and enjoyed all the cavern had to offer. It is a pretty amazing sight, and I would recommend putting it on your bucket list. But make sure you're wearing good hiking shoes or tennis shoes and not motorcycle boots. By the end of the tour, my feet were pretty sore. Then it was time to go. We had to get back to Texas before it got too dark. We had originally decided to go to Fort Stockton, but ended up going to Midland as I had lost my gas cap again, and Midland had a Harley-Davidson dealership. We were glad when we finally made it to Midland, as it was pretty cold. We ate at the Clear Springs restaurant, and the food was great, and the service was outstanding. The next morning, we got to Legacy Harley-Davidson, where they hooked me up with a gas cap and also some cold weather gear, since it was 40 degrees that morning. Took a couple of pictures with my phone of some cool old bikes they had. It was great to be back in the land of trees. We were headed south towards Fredericksburg. Well, south and east. We made a few stops along the way in some cool old Texas towns. This flag really made me feel like I was at home. We took a little walk here where we saw that flag. I think the town was Menard, Texas. It was a good place to stretch our legs. And then it was time to get back on the bike and hit the road. So we did. We were off to Fredericksburg to spend our last night on the road. The next day, the major stop was Luckenbach, Texas. The last morning of the ride, we left Fredericksburg and headed for Luckenbach. Luckenbach, Texas is an icon. Being in this area and not stopping is sacrilegious. So we stopped and enjoyed ourselves. We were there early and there weren't too many people around, but it was a great opportunity to get some pictures. So I took a few shots before it was time to head home. I really enjoyed this trip, and spending time with my daughter was outstanding. I really hated to see this trip come to an end, and soon we would be home and my daughter would be heading to her home. I can't stress enough how important it is to spend time with the ones you love. With that said, I really enjoyed this trip, and I enjoyed making this video, and I hope you enjoyed it as well.